Motorcyclists are built different. There really is no debating that. Riding a motorcycle isn't just a mode of transportation. It's this activity that blurs the line between a sport, a hobby, and a lifestyle. And unlike driving a car, riding a motorcycle, specifically riding one well, actually requires a significant amount of skill. At least half of the people driving Nissans in America shouldn't be legally allowed to operate a vehicle of any sort. Can you imagine them on a motorcycle? Riding a bike requires balance and finesse. According to the amount of body damage you see on a huge number of cars on the road, finesse doesn't seem to be a characteristic that's possessed by many operators. A motorcyclist has the ability to control the throttle, use the clutch, work through a gearbox, and operate both the front and rear brakes independently. To the average car driver, that sounds like an improbable feat. With that much responsibility falling on the driver, how are you supposed to scroll TikTok and drink an overpriced drive-thru while riding? Motorcyclists have mental focus. They have to, as the stakes are much too high otherwise. A rider must not only be in control of the dynamics of their own motorcycle, they must also be perceptive and predictive in ways that they scan and observe other vehicles or road hazards. With so many drivers being distracted, motorcyclists have no choice but to ascend to a greater plane of spatial understanding where they can avoid being hit by cars, avoid riding wide outside of a corner, and generally be prepared for any number of obstacles or challenges they may encounter on the road. The clear difference in skill, focus, and perception is one of the most obvious ways in which a motorcyclist is just built different. Unlike the plebeian car drivers that congest American roadways, motorcyclists must also contend with the brutal forces of nature every time that they ride. Unless you live in California where you pretty much have ideal riding weather year-round, most parts of the US fluctuate between freezing cold or brutally hot. Even if it doesn't get all too cold in places like Texas or Florida, the summer heat can get pretty brutal in the saddle of a bike. Even when the temperature chooses to cooperate, motorcyclists are subject to the unpredictable rainstorms as well. Car drivers are shielded from weather inside a warm, dry, climate-controlled cabin where motorcycle riders must confront the elements head-on with tenacity. This requires mental fortitude and physical toughness. Changes in weather don't just challenge your physical comfort, they also create new difficulties in your riding. Wet roads require an even greater attention to your throttle and braking inputs to avoid a loss of traction. When a motorcyclist is expecting poor weather, they must dress accordingly in proper gear for rain or cold and prepare themselves to alter their riding style to remain safely in control. Even intense heat can create as much, if not more, discomfort for a rider. If you're cold, you can always add underlayers or heated garments to your ensemble to promote warmth, whereas there isn't much you can do to cool off when it's insanely hot. There is hot weather gear that can promote airflow and cooling while not sacrificing safety, but otherwise, when you're hot, and there's not much you're gonna do about it other than stay hydrated and just tough it out. Extreme temperatures is not made any better by the fact that motorcycles generate quite a bit of heat.
This is a bit of a thermodynamics problem that this motorcycle has. It's just simply so hot.
This engine heat on a hot summer day can lead to a fountain of gooch juice between your legs. And now, folks, we just got demonetized, so please hit that link below to yamandube.co and support the show. We're giving away a Street 77765 RS. Go and check that out. Having to contend with every type of weather gives motorcycle riders toughness, both in regards to their physical resilience and their mental game. You make your wife's boyfriend drop you off in front of the door so you don't get wet when it rains. I ride my Busa to work in the snow uphill both ways. We are not the same. Motorcyclists are often their own mechanics as well. This is a massive distinction between riders and the rest of the population. How many Americans can change their own oil in their car? 10? 100? It certainly can't be many in comparison to the amount of registered vehicles. God forbid you have to change a battery if it goes flat. Although it isn't much more complicated changing the oil on a car versus a motorcycle, a car's massive lumbering size makes it way more cumbersome to do basic mechanical work. And for a majority of drivers, it's just not worth the hassle. Myself included, I literally do not do anything on my four-wheeled vehicles. It's not worth it. You gotta jack the car up, put it on jack stands, lay on the ground. It's just annoying. And with the way cars are these days, the manufacturer probably doesn't even want you changing your own oil. I wouldn't be surprised if some new cars have a 5-step process to access the oil filter with some special tools. First, you must remove the engine cover, then the air intake, then you remove the timing cover, then you remove the exhaust headers, then you must drink a gallon of antifreeze. Not for anything else, you just should be doing that. And then you can access the oil filter, and then make sure you throw your car battery out into the ocean where it belongs, making it so inconvenient that it's not worth anybody's time to attempt it themselves. Also, please don't drink antifreeze or throw your batteries into the ocean. That's the joke part of the video. The inconvenience of servicing a car couldn't be any more different than a rider's relationship with their motorcycle. Most motorcycle maintenance is really simple for most riders to be able to complete on their own with just basic tools and a service manual. Bikes are small, they're light, and the mechanical components are well exposed with easy access for service, fully faired bikes notwithstanding. Maintaining your own motorcycle creates a more intimate relationship with the machine. It creates a deeper understanding of the way the bike works and provides you with more opportunities to install upgrades or modifications, and working with your hands is just nice. I feel like we should all be doing that. Obviously, more than 100 people in America change their own oil. I feel like some of you gearheads don't realize when I'm joking, but the amount of people who drive cars and do their own service has got to be a way smaller percentage when compared to the amount of motorcyclists who maintain their own bikes. We riders are also built different in the way we're able to maximize value, baby. You go to any local car meet and you'll see people with 40 grand tied up in modified 4-cylinder Camaros. That's completely insane. On the cheaper end, car people are out here spending tens of thousands of dollars rebuilding old Subarus, BMW Civics, or any other quote-unquote enthusiast type of car to get marginal power gains that usually dramatically diminish any sort of longevity for their machine. For the average motorcyclist, this is incomprehensible. For a fraction of the price, any sort of enthusiast car, not to mention a serious sports car with actual performance chops, you can get a motorcycle that will outperform nearly any four-wheeled vehicle on the road. Motorcycles might have a much greater barrier to entry in terms of education and training, but once you've got your endorsement, the amount of fun you can experience on a bike is far more accessible than it is with performance cars. If you want something fast, you can buy some of the best sport bikes in the market for less than $20,000 brand new. You can have your pick of the litter at that kind of price. Or you can buy a U600 for like $6,000 and get way more performance than any car driver could even dream of for such little money. And because high-performance motorcycles are usually way more reliable than high-performance cars, you can buy a really affordable used model without worrying too much about reliability. If you're into the sort of off-road overlanding type of car stuff, dual sport bikes or adventure bikes are going to be way more attainable than some $80,000 Tacoma build or rig, and probably way more capable most of the time. I mean, you're limited by the skill, not so much the vehicle, but you guys get what I'm saying. As mentioned, working on motorcycles is a much easier thing than working on cars, so modifying and customizing them is easier also. And aftermarket parts are way less expensive, they're quicker and easier to install, and the return you'll get from modifying your motorcycle is significantly better than the payoff of modifying a car. Car drivers spend thousands and thousands on air intakes, bigger turbos, an intercooler, and exhaust to tune, and once their car is finally making the power they want, they'll blow the transmission. And when the transmission's replaced, they'll realize they're not getting enough traction, so you need wider wheels and stickier tires, and there's coilovers because your old coilovers suck, and the list goes on and on until your wife gets pregnant or you want to buy a house and you realize this car is literally the worst investment you've ever made in your life and you'll never come close to recouping what you've put into it. When it comes to understanding value of performance, motorcyclists are light years ahead of their car driver compatriots. We, of course, love Rockform for their rock-solid phone cases and motorcycle handlebar mounts, but they keep adding more and more new accessories that allow you to capitalize and expand on your existing setup. With a Rockform phone case in hand, you can attach it to a mount on your bike, on the dash of your car, and now even on a camera tripod. As more and more people get into motorcycle content creation, the Rockform tripod mount is a super convenient piece of kit. The 1/4-inch threads attached to any standard camera tripod, and the magnetic phone attachment allows you to super quickly attach your phone to get the perfect shot. The base of the mount is magnetic as well, so you can quickly slap the mount onto a metal surface, snap your phone onto the other side, and set up a shot without even having to use a tripod. Rockform has an astounding track record for high build quality and rugged durability, and this mount is no different. With a super strong magnet, especially paired with a Rockform case, you know your phone isn't going to budge. Rockform's been a long-time Yaminu partner, and their support is invaluable. If you enjoy your existing Rockform products and have an interest in using your phone for photography or video, click the link below and check out the tripod mount. Yaminu viewers get 25% discount as well if you use the code YN25. So hit that link in the description, use that code YN25 for 25% off. Thanks so much to Rockform for the support. Now let's get back to the show. Now, riding motorcycles come with inherent risks. It's risky, and there's no way around it, and we've mentioned that a lot on the channel. But what sets a motorcyclist apart from the rest of society is our ability to face these risks head on and use strategies that help us mitigate them and enjoy the ride, baby. It's a combination of courage, personal responsibility, and calculated decision-making that makes riders built different, and we get to experience things that none of you will ever experience if you've never ridden a motorcycle. I've gone full pin on an H2 and reached 211 miles per hour with my head sticking out in the wind. I mean, who can say that if you haven't ridden a motorcycle? When we're out riding, you don't have the protections that a car has. It's solely the responsibility of the rider to use skill, awareness, and preparation to stay safe. A lot of car drivers passively go down the road with the assumption that nothing bad's gonna happen to them, of course, until something does. Whereas a motorcyclist has to admit to themselves that a life-altering accident could happen at any moment, and it's their job to make sure that it doesn't. The risky nature of motorcycle riding lends itself to a greater sense of personal responsibility, knowing that it is solely up to you to make it back home after a ride. Riders mitigate risk by being properly trained and educated, wearing the best safety gear, and having a high sense of situational awareness. A motorcyclist accepts the risk of their actions. They bear the responsibility for their own safety. They make choices and decisions that allow them to stay safe while having fun out on the road. That accountability is another reason that they're built different. Motorcycles have always carried an air of rebellion. Even the most straight-laced sport touring dad embodies some degree of rebellion just by being on two wheels. To ride a motorcycle, you must embrace the challenge, accept the risks, and reject the naysayers who say that it's too dangerous or not worth your time to ride. The long-standing idea of a rebellious biker evokes the image of a leather-clad tough guy on a Harley, but really no matter what you ride, whether it be sport bikes, touring bikes, or adventure bikes, you've got some sort of rebellious spirit that encourages you to reject the norm. Because let's face it, motorcycling is by no means a super popular form of recreation for a majority of people. It's a niche that's sought out by risk takers and adrenaline junkies and adventurous types who would rather put themselves out there to enjoy a raw, visceral, thrilling experience, despite the risks or challenges it presents. It's always easier to not do something. You could get your sensible Toyota hybrid with a highly competitive financing rate during Toyotathon. You can work your stable 9 to 5 and enjoy some light PC gaming on the weekends. But life is short. There's so much to be seen and experienced, and I believe motorcyclists are more likely to get out there and get after it because they have a predilection to rebel against the norm or the status quo and experience the novel thrill that only motorcycle riding can give you. And we exist in an increasingly solitary world. People go to work or school remotely. Many people's interests lead them to being increasingly online instead of out engaging with other people. Motorcyclists are built different in the way that community has always been a core element of motorcycling, even since the very beginning. In the very basic sense, the biker wave is indicative of the community. How many other times are complete strangers routinely acknowledging one another in public? It represents a kinship that all riders feel with one another. Similarly, motorcycle group rides and meetups are a fixture of the motorcycling experience. Even if you're not one to partake in a huge bike night or massive group rides, almost every motorcyclist has a couple of buddies they enjoy riding with, as the level of fun is heightened when you're sharing the experience with other people. We live in an era of digital correspondence, parasocial relationships, and a general disconnect between individuals and greater communities. And despite that, the community element of motorcycles has remained omnipresent. And as online riding communities have grown over the decades, they have not detracted from the real-life events and group rides that came before it. If anything, the increase in online communities and motorcycling's representation on social media has only aided in getting newer, younger people into the sport. Get a motorcycle and free yourself from this digital prison. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Who else is built different? MMA fighters, late night Waffle House line cooks, middle school lunch ladies? I think all of those can definitely be described as built different. If you're new around here and looking to get into riding this coming year, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. We post daily content, much of which is a great resource for new riders. If you're not a new rider, it's also a great way to stay connected to the motosphere while you patiently await spring. Thanks again for watching. I'll see you all later. Fact: the founder of Adidas and the founder of Puma are brothers. That completely adds up. Somewhere out there, one Slovakian guy wearing a tracksuit, squatting down, drinking vodka, just rolled one single tear down his cheek. Goodbye. Well, boys, that's the end of the show for today, but there's always a new video tomorrow. Every single day, there's a YamiNoob video. While you wait for the next one to queue up, become a member on YamiNoob.co and join to win this amazing Triumph Street Triple 765 RS that's right next to me. Cosmic yellow, street performance, track performance, a sonorous 3-cylinder. It has it all. Make sure you join on YamiNoob.co and don't delay.